And now, ladies and gentlemen,
Put your thumbs up and say it's Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo, Tickety Boo, everything's Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo, son. Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo! Welcome back to Tickety Boo. We release a new episode every Monday, and today we're looking at something most people don't like to admit: resentment. That quiet kind. The kind that builds when you don't say what you really mean, when you hold back more than you share, when life doesn't feel quite fair. Welcome back, guys. Resentment. Do you know, when I was thinking of subjects and resentment came up, I was like, I don't really do resentment. And then a part of me went, oh, yes, you do. Like, hugely. And it's generally for me around boundaries I don't hold up or responsibilities I've ended up running with that I never agreed to. I notice resentment. I don't know how you guys notice it. I notice it for me when there's this feeling underneath the surface that people don't really see what I'm carrying, what I'm dealing with. How does it show up in your world?
Well, so which direction to go in? I think it's when I felt unjustified, like being treated badly. Like I had resentment to my dad for most of my adult life. Then I've had resentment to when I've said yes when I meant no. So then it's like resentment for myself. And then when it's like, I think it just bubbles in little ways when you're not being honest or when you're being...
What I heard you say there is resentment comes in for me when I abandon myself.
Ooh, therapy session, thank you. Yeah, definitely.
Because I do that a lot. What about you?
For me, it's definitely my number one trigger, without a doubt, is feeling disrespected. And that often comes with that psychological contract that I've written in secret, where I believe I'm going to treat people in a certain way and they don't treat me in the same way back or with the same regard.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, my number one trigger and my number one thing, it's definitely feeling disrespected. And that is generally my own fault because, as we've spoke about 100 times, it's that secret contract you make with yourself without the other person knowing that they will treat you and reciprocate in the same way that you have treated them. But that doesn't happen, and that's something that I resent. That continually happens.
Is that because something inside of you has not been acknowledged?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. Like you say, how are the other people meant to know?
Yeah. And
Or is it a case of you've told them and they've decided to ignore?
And also I think there's fleeting resentments, and then there's that deep murmuring resentment that you've carried on for years, like the relationship with my father. That's a long, bubbling, deep-rooted resentment. But then there can be other ones which are much more short-lived, so they don't stay festering in your system. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I think, a lot of resentment starts from a place of over-responsibility. Like, for me, a lot of resentment crept in, and it's through nobody's fault. Been the oldest brother earlier in life when, I had to step up and look after my younger brother or be the, at a very early age, teenage years, be like the adult figure of the family. And I didn't know how to do that role. I didn't necessarily want that role either. And sometimes you wear a badge of honor, you're the man of the family now, and you're like, I don't want to be the man of the family. I never signed up for this. Sometimes you enjoy it and sometimes you don't. And what I noticed was that quiet little voice in my head that was going, why is it always me?
Yeah.
And that, I don't like the way that shows up in feelings.
Me personally, I get fleeting resentment, but that's more reactive, I think. Or I say reactive. It's obviously something that's underlying that people just ping. But I try not to carry too much resentment.
No, I don't.
Because it's just not a healthy thing for me to carry at all.
So do you think resentment comes from the things that we've just learned to accept but are not happy with?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause- Yeah. I think it's something we do. 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 need to let go. It's like if we're not happy with something, can we change it? Is there something we can do differently, or just say boundaries? Because
I think though secretly all of us hope that the other person recognises that we're resentful and addresses
oh,
it.
you mean the mind readers?
Yeah, telepathy. And then they go, oh, by the way, and you're like, oh, I'm all right now because you've acknowledged my resentment. So we sit there in frustration that nobody's actually picking up on the resentment that we're feeling in the moment.
Well, that's then putting your piece in somebody else's hand. And your resentment might be near the top of your list in that moment, but that other person hasn't even given a second thought because they're off figuring out their own, maybe their own resentment.
But a lot of the time you realise you're really angry, you're really cheesed off in the situation, but no one's actually forced you into that anger. You've done it.
Yeah.
Because what happens is, like for me, it was like, I feel like that now, and that time I did that for them, and then that, and then that, and then that, and now they've made me feel like this, and you're like, oh my God, rein it back in.
Yeah, again, but that's because you assume that people will treat you in the same way that you treat them. To us, as the people that we are, it's a perfectly natural thing. That's how we match other people's energy, and we reciprocate as treated. And there's just an understanding that other people will, and I think that.
Are you anything like me? Resentment turns up as like a sulky silence. Not that you're sulking, you're just quiet about it. You don't speak your truth.
Yeah.
You just sit there for a bit and become that teenager.
Yeah.
But,
definitely.
Yeah. Not talking about it.
Definitely.
Yeah, sort of.
And some of my resentment as well, actually, and I do that. Well, I've done that in this particular circumstance. Some of my resentment is me resenting I've assumed that somebody else has got resentment towards me, so that's what I resent. That's a story. That's a story I'm telling myself, really.
Resenting resentment. That's brilliant.
Is that a double negative? Positive. No, but you can see sometimes when we were talking about people not celebrating your successes, but wanting to, always rubbing it in our face, whatever. And it's not. You just.
But most of the time, the resentment's about us, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not really about the other people.
You've not seen me, you don't value me, you don't appreciate me.
Yeah. For not saying what we meant, or for not setting a boundary, or letting things slide for too long. That's generally where it tends to happen for me. And there's a frustration there, not just with them, but with ourselves. That, I keep letting them away with this.
Yeah, a sense of injustice and frustration.
Yeah, injustice, that's the word. This injustice. And I'm going to sit here and sulk until everyone recognises my injustice, and then I can be validated, and then I'll allow myself to be happy again.
Yeah. Good luck waiting for that one.
Still waiting. Yeah, but we do. It's like, why do I let this happen? Why do I allow this situation to happen again and again? And you're like, because you can observe the pattern and you don't do anything about it. And sometimes that doesn't always involve speaking up or having the conversation. Sometimes it's just like, I'll just step away, or I'll just remove my energy, or I'll do things differently. I'll protect my peace. I think that's the key thing. For me, I think resentment towards myself is more than just irritation. It's regret.
Yeah.
Regret that I didn't do something earlier, or I haven't said something. And actually, a lot of it, if I strip all the layers back, it actually comes back to fear that if I do something, something will happen. Yeah. We talked about this in the last episode, that part in the back pocket that's doing something. Weirdly, that part can lead to frustration and agitation. It's not a nice emotion, is it? I think a lot of us are feeling it right now. We feel the world's quite an unjust place. The world is not for us; it's against us. The system is against us. A lot of people right now feel like they're doing the right thing. They're working hard. They're doing everything we were promised we'd do. If you do that, you will be successful and you'll be rewarded for it. But a lot of people don't feel that at the moment, do they? So there's this quiet resentment across the general population.
Yeah, so it's not just like our individual, and then we've got the collective.
The collective resentment, which I think a lot of us is the thing we're in.
The trouble is, if it goes unchecked, what does that then turn into?
It boils over, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It simmers, and then it
goes into something more than resentment. How long does it take? until it boils over and turns into hate or
Yeah, I think that's
anger.
with a collective resentment where we have us against them happening.
Watching the injustice.
Yeah.
That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But what about for people like you've got something like parenting fatigue?
Gosh, remember that time I phoned you for my garden shed? I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Which time was that? The 1st or the 10th?
I was like, help.
Help. Yeah, it is. It's difficult, isn't it? Or, maybe you're really working hard at work and no one's acknowledged the work that you've done or the effort that you're putting in, so you just feel unseen.
Yeah.
And it's that mental overload, just coming back again to the parenting. But I think in a lot of these relationships where you're showing up and you're doing so much, and it's like, yeah, teenagers aren't going to appreciate, they're not going to appreciate us, but we feel so overwhelmed with taking it on, and our mental load, we're just at breaking point. And that can happen in all sorts of environments, not just parenting.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this before. One of the realizations I had to come to was when I enter into something in a group setting, or I'm doing something with a collective, I immediately go, we're all on the same page. We're all pulling in the same direction. We all have that same sense of spirit, but I never communicate that. I just unconsciously expect everyone to do that. Then as soon as somebody doesn't do something that's part of the plan or doesn't toe the line, resentment kicks in going, well, I'm doing all of this over here. Why are you not doing that? And it's actually got nothing to do with them. It's got everything to do with me. And that really is one of the things that I've had to go, that's on you.
Well, and it's that unexpressed expectation. It's like you expect them to do this, they should just do it, but they should know that by now. And we see that with couples and
Well, how
exes.
do you communicate?
Yeah.
Is a communication in there of if that resentment is showing up, it's actually you use it as feedback to go, I've obviously not communicated what's to be done here properly. Or if you have communicated and then it's not met, some of that frustration could be justified.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That's where my biggest resentment comes in. So yeah.
Right.
So definitely when I've explained something to somebody and then they still choose it, because at that point it's a choice.
It's a choice.
It's not unconscious. It's a choice.
Yeah.
And then that's when you feel you do feel I suppose a sense of injustice in unmet expectation, because you expect it. I only get frustrated when I expect more of that person. If I have no expectation of that person, I don't really care. But it's when I have an unmet expectation that then turns into a sense of injustice.
Yeah, and it's really unhealthy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you do fall into that trap of you just don't see everything that I do for you.
Yeah.
Well, it's that festering. It's like holding on to anger, resentment, like all these things that just, we hold them in our bodies, and it's to release that. And I think this is, the more we can do that and just navigate it and communicate our what we expect, obviously. But yeah, because if we hold on to resentment and anger, like all these low vibration feelings, well, it's still in there. Just because we're ignoring it, excuse me, just because we're ignoring it doesn't mean it's gone away. It's like we're a pressure cooker and we're going to pop at some point.
So we're kind of saying that really what we need to do is treat resentment as more of a signal that something's off somewhere.
I think so.
Or something's unspoken. And it's not something to be carried, it's something to be...
It's definitely not, because what you're doing is you're constantly handing over your
power.
ability to have peace and your power to somebody else who half the time has no understanding of the fact that they're actually holding your peace in their hands.
Yeah.
And the reality as well is that the one thing I've learned time and time again is when resentment creeps in, actually it's because something's been off for a good while. It's not new.
Yeah.
It's a persistent thing that it's a
chronic
pattern.
thing, yeah.
It's a chronic thing, and it just seems to reach this threshold where you're like, oh, now you've like this volcano that wants to explode. And if you're doing the work, you can actually go, well, that's on me because I've known this for a long time and I've made the choice to not do anything about it. And bringing your power back from, if they could just see and understand.
Do you think there's much of a difference just disliking them? Because there are people that do things that are just not your cup of tea, and in life you you just dislike them. They're not my people. So there's much difference between disliking somebody and feeling resentment. I think there is.
Yeah, I think there is, but I think there's another thing in there as well: disappointment. I think sometimes people can disappoint you, and I don't necessarily mean they're bad people for doing that. Maybe they're not in a good place, or they've made a poor choice. It's not who they normally are, whatever it is. But I think disappointment definitely drops into that hat as well. But no, I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, because disliking somebody is almost you saying, right, okay, you're being cast off over there. You're kind of not, you're not renting a space in my head. But whereas resentment, it's a bit like something that's simmering in the background and it just sits in you. And then because it's chronic, it has the ability to spike and boil up.
It does
when triggered.
Yeah.
Whereas dislike, it's the same as hate. There's a big difference between dislikes, not liking somebody, and hating them. That rents space in your head, and it.
Yeah. So, like, what are you carrying right now? That's 9 times out of 10 not really yours to carry. Yeah, resentment's one of those ones. It is like, I'm going to sit here and suffer in silence, and hopefully nobody, and I'll close the curtains and turn the lights off, but hopefully somebody will notice. Oh, you're quiet. What's wrong? Nothing. I'm fine.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It is though,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it's exactly
we become
that.
like a child with it. Yeah, I'm good.
What kind of random question? What kind of things do you think people resent about us?
As in us or collectively us?
Collectively as people, sorry.
I think I'm thinking of a couple of certain situations now. And I think sometimes for me, it's where I haven't gone along with the narrative, but I never agreed to the narrative. I've got caught up in a narrative that I never knew was there, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I think we've talked about this a lot, these unconscious contracts that we have with people where it's like, you do that for me, I do this for you. Or, I do them a favour or they do me a favour. And now it's like, I'm mentally banking it. You now owe me one, but you don't know that you owe me one, but I'm going to call it in at a time that's probably at the absolute worst for you. And when you don't respond in a way that I've already rehearsed in my head, I'm going to have a problem with that. And I think what we tend to do in life is we pigeonhole people. We put them in placeholders in our mind, like they're our friends, but also what can they do for me? What can I get from them? We're not from a place of bad. It's just like, we do these, and then we have these expectations of them. And then when they don't meet that, you're like, you don't say it to them, but you go, you weren't meant to do that. You were meant to do this. What's going on? Why haven't you done it? A lot of people around you see your success. So unconsciously they go, you're the fixer. Because you're successful and you have resources. I don't need to take responsibility for my kind of stuff because you're going to come in and fix it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You'll take my pain away from me. You'll deal with my pain because you've invested time in working through your own pain to get to that place where you have those resources. And I don't want to do that, so you're going to do it for me. When you turn around and go, I can't, I won't, or whatever, which you're very entitled to do, they'll be resentful towards you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, because you've occupied this place in my head and now you're not complying with the story, that's where resentment creeps in. And the weird thing about it is we don't consciously choose to do this. We just unconsciously end up doing it. Does it kind of make sense what I'm saying to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an interesting question, which Ian said. It's like, what do we think other people be resentful for? We don't know because it's that unconscious contract they've made with us and their expectations. So it could be many things.
Mm. Yeah. Again, one we spoke about was you look at somebody else and you again, this could be social media or anything, where you see somebody else's highlights and your life isn't so great yourself, or you're busy focusing on the negative. You see what somebody else has done or achieved, but you don't know what's gone into it.
Yeah.
You've not seen you've not focused on the hard work or the sacrifice. You just see the end, and it all looks so easy. It looks like it just happened like that. So
Yeah.
then there's a level of resentment because all of this stuff just clicked into place for him or her, and nothing, and my life's just not it's just not like that. So I think sometimes there's an element of, it kind of almost mixes in with jealousy.
I
that
think
kind of resentment.
as you were talking there, I'm thinking about times in my life where I've examples of things that have made me resentful, and I can to depersonalize it, I can take it away from friendship groups and things like that, and I can make it about business. And it was actually an accountant, and I was paying this accountant a fairly decent amount of money every month to deal with my business and accountancy affairs. But very late in the end of every month where something needs to return, you get this massive email in. We're like, we need all this information. We need it by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. And you'd get it at like 4:30, on the day before. And this kept happening and kept happening. And I found myself getting really wound up and angry and frustrated and cheesed off. And then I was up till 10, 11 o'clock at night. And one morning I got up and went, what are you doing? So I actually sent an email to the accountant going, I'm going to be blunt with you. I'm not very happy. I pay you this every month, and you come at the 11th hour and 59th minute and ask all of this stuff of me because you've decided to leave it to the last minute. This either improves or I go somewhere else. And by the way, half the work that I'm doing, I actually pay you to do. And they come back and went, you're completely right, we'll do better. But I'd had months of biting chunks off the skirting board because you were that frustrated at the situation. It was like, if I get angry enough, telepathy will send them the signal. They'll pick it up on it and they'll go, Andy's angry. Do better.
Yeah.
And it never works like that, does it?
In reality, you could have communicated that earlier, which is...
Communicate your needs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Communicate your needs, but we don't. And that's the thing, isn't it? I think what we've got to do is all recognise what have we been quietly keeping the score of. And it's almost like we're building up resentment points, but when you get to the certain amount, then you've reached the quota and that's it, you're done. Because what I've been guilty of in my past is when someone's continuously pushed me to that level of resentment, I write them off. I'm done with it. I reach a point I don't come back from, and I don't like that. Because the collateral damage could have been dealt with. There could have been an opportunity for retribution and things to be rebalanced. But I've just let them get to that, whatever that quota is in my mind, and then it's a point of no return.
But sometimes that's healthy.
Yeah, I get it.
The resentment in the build-up wasn't healthy.
But bottom line is I've never turned around and gone, that's not on. That doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
And in fairness, if you don't point out an issue to somebody, you don't give them the opportunity to rectify.
To right the right, to do
It
it
sounds
right,
like resentment. We've got to improve our communication.
Yeah,
Actually
it is.
communicate it out loud.
Well, resentment isn't the enemy. The silence is.
Yeah.
That's the real issue there. If you're sitting there in silence, you're the problem.
Yeah.
Either remove your energy, redirect your energy, or speak up. And, resentment is just one of those emotions. It's like anxiety. It's just not good to have around all the time. Yeah. Well, I'm not resentful that episode's now coming to an end.
Thank you for expressing that.
No problem. Sharing, communicating. As always, we really appreciate you watching and listening, and we look forward to catching up with you in the next episode of Tickety Boo.
If you or someone close to you needs to access mental health support, please contact your GP, or if it's out with normal office hours, get in touch with NHS 24 on 111. Alternatively, contact the Samaritans on 116 123. All calls are free of charge from any phone. You can also find more support information on the Tickety Boo website, ticketyboopodcast.co.uk.